I hope we're helping Joe. I hope he's listening. Joe, are you listening and talking to your parents so that you can have an open and honest discussion with them about what is going to happen? Are you planning for this?
Yeah. Yeah. Because life will ask. You know, our line essentially is, will you be ready when life asks, did you plan for this? And when I say when life asks, what I mean is these situations that occur in your life as if you didn't plan them, right? They just show up for you. And you're being asked, how are you going to deal with it?
So any last words for Joe, or what do you think?
Joe DeVito, please keep doing comedy. You're hilarious. And I really hope you find the woman of your dreams, even though you've already turned 50.
Did you plan for this, or did you miss when life demands answers you can't dismiss? Will you be ready when the trumpet blows? Do you have the blueprint for life's unknowns?
Guilt trip. Still, I went to visit my family, and my mother and father cornered me, yelling at me. I'm a grown man. The two of them freaking out. Joseph, you need a plan. You don't have any children. Who's going to take care of you when you get old? That's when it hit me. They think I'm going to take care of them. Now who needs a plan? No. I'd like to have kids one day, but just for the one day. It's a very annoying.
Thank you, Joe DeVito and Dry Bar. That's hilarious.
Who needs a plan?
Who needs a plan?
What do you get from that?
Well, what I get is that I think there are a lot of assumptions, right? Joe is making jokes about the fact that his parents assume, right, that he's going to take care of them. And look how they let him know.
So would you lead into the next question at the reverse it, Joe, you need to ask your parents, what are their plans?
Yeah, and really get more specific. I think that, you know, we're joking here, right? And Joe is very funny. And if you haven't seen the whole thing, it's hilarious.
Where do you find it?
Oh, it's on Dry Bar Comedy.
Okay.
And you just look up Dry Bar, Joe DeVito, and you can find it. Yeah. Yeah. I was sitting with my husband and we're watching this, and this came up, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to share this with Ron. It's so common, I think, that parents are going along in their lives, thinking their thoughts, living their life, right? And the adult children are doing the same. And occasionally there's the Sunday phone call, or there's the holiday visit, or there's Mother's Day, or whatever, however we connect, right? Adults, parents, and children. And each of us are on our own trajectory. And I know you have adult children, I have adult children. And I've realized there are plenty of things that I haven't told my kids. And there are plenty of things they haven't told me. So when do we finally have that conversation?
The come to meeting. Do you want to have that come to meeting with them and really tell them everything?
I'm nervous about it. I mean, even with everything I know and everywhere I've been and all the clients I've served, I recognize that, one, nobody's perfect. You know, nobody's perfect. We are doing the best we can with what we know at the time. That's true, I would say, for all of us. But in this, I also don't want to burden my children with my feelings about death necessarily. But at the same time, if I'm honest with them, if I talk to them about it, then they have a chance to kind of assess their own feelings, their own fears, their own thoughts about it. And so rather than try to talk about everything, because I think that's a lot. And I think a lot of kids, like, their eyes will roll and they're like, no, Mom, I don't want the sterling silver and I don't want the china. Because we think it's about the transaction. We keep taking it back to the transaction because the transaction's easier to talk about.
The transaction of dying?
Who's going to get your stuff when you die is a transactional question.
Or the monetary reward if you die?
Yes. Hey, Mom, how much am I looking forward to? Nobody wants to ask that question. that is the height of crass, right?
Right. But
And we don't want anyone to feel like we asked how much and when, because those two are the chief beneficiary questions when someone passes. How much and when will I get it?
so in your role as a professional fiduciary, have you been asked by your client to tell the children before that person passes away to tell them what they're getting?
Oh, not before they pass away.
Okay, you don't have that conversation.
So, part of our discussion, yours and mine, in the various episodes on the website, everywhere else that we talk about these things, it's to soften the edges and allow for some natural, comfortable conversation to happen. One, we're no longer avoiding the eventuality of our death. Is it going to happen? Yes. Do I know when? No. Does anybody know? No. But it is going to happen. And I appreciate all of the longevity folk. I appreciate all the self-help folk. We want to live better, stronger, healthier. We want to feel good in our own skin. There's a lot of work to be done. But I think there's an underlying tension and worry. It's constant. You're driving on the freeway. This could be it. This could be the moment, right?
Right.
And that happens enough for me that I don't want to avoid talking about certain topics with my kids, but then how do I introduce these ideas? So my family's a little bit different. We've been in these topics for over 20 years. My
Right.
kids have been with me on client meetings. My kids have been with me at networking events. My kids have been with me just about everywhere where I work. So for us, it's a little bit different. Are they aware that I'm going to pass at some point? Yeah, they are. But at the same time, we're gentle about it. We say things about our desires and our concerns. My kids have their estate plans.
In case of Joe, he wants to start talking about to his parents what would be the first question? How would he touch?
Well, he's joking with us.
Right.
They
But-
think I'm going to take care of them, right? That's his joke.
Right.
But maybe asking, "Oh, do you expect me to take care of you? What does that look like?"
And do you want me?
Oh, I think a lot of parents, okay, I'll just speak for myself. As a parent, I see my sons as knights in shining armor. I would love the idea that if I were ill, that they would come. They would come from far away. They would come from their busy lives. They would come from their relationships and their friendships and the fun stuff. And they would come and be with me in the not so fun stuff. And in being with me, the way I picture it is there's tenderness. Now, I know well enough that none of my 6 sons, and by the way, I have 2 sons of my own, right? And I have 4 stepsons. I have promised them all they will never have to bathe me. I can't ask them to do that. That is not cool. So I may have a caregiver for that. But there's the waiting. There's the long periods of time where there's maybe conversation about ancestors, parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. Maybe there's games to play and books to read out loud. But I'm very hopeful that they would want to be with me, be in my presence, be with me.
And you've opened up about that to them.
Oh, yeah, I have.
Where so many people in our listening audience, our viewing audience, Plan fans are really struggling with that relationship and who to seek out.
Well, here's a consideration. There's someone in your life that you would like to sit beside you if you can't get out of bed. And maybe there's someone else available, like a professional caregiver or someone to deal with the clinical aspect of that reality. But you're all dry and clean, you're freshly showered, you're back in your bed. Who do you want to have with you? And again, I hope that we've got 50 more years on the planet, and this is not something to worry about. But the reason that we picture things in advance is so that we can express our preferences. And if you picture it, I really want you to think from the end. Thank you, Stephen Covey, for one of those lessons, right? It's so important to picture what that looks like. So in my bedroom today, I have a very comfortable bed, but I also have a little couch. I have a place for someone else to sit.
To visit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that in a planning point or?
I'm just sharing that that's how I set
Okay.
it up. And when I look at that couch, I see my husband sitting there sometimes. That's where he likes to read. Sometimes I sit in it. It's a different perspective on the room, but it's a sweet, soft, comfortable spot. And when I think of myself at 110 on my last days, I picture that couch being occupied by people who've gone before me, by people who are in my life now, and by the people who might be in my life in the future that I don't even know yet, who would be tender and kind and funny and be willing to watch a movie with me or something.
You have lived it and worked it for so many years. You have a different perspective than most people. As you know, having done this for 20 plus years and having Lorenz for 50 years, most people don't plan. They don't anticipate, or they know it's going to happen. But I mean, just case in point, if I'll share with you, I got a call this week from somebody who knows, our space and what we do and how we are so proactive with trying to help people plan. Ron, I have a friend, Parkinson. My friend has Parkinson's. His closest relatives, who are cousins, live in the southern part of the United States, Texas, Louisiana, I believe. And he is abusing his friendship with his friends here in California because we just can't be his caregiver anymore.
Oh.
And she's distraught because she's a dear friend, but she can't live her life because he's calling and not purposely abusing, but just
He has a lot of needs.
he has a lot of needs. How do we connect the dots so we can try to get to those people that just refuse or try to refuse help?
I can hear my father, ex-Navy aircraft mechanic, say, "You can't save them all." And that it hurts my heart a little bit. So I invite people who hear our voices and who are watching this show to share it. That every one of us is going to cross that threshold at some point. And for instance, with your acquaintance who called you, I would say her next phone call to that gentleman, her friend, is to say, "I am so sorry that I'm not able to do everything that you need done. But here is the website for the Aging Life Care Association. I think you need a care manager. I think you need possibly a professional fiduciary. And you can find one at fiduciary.ca.gov in California. And you can find one at trusteealliance.com nationally, because you need someone who's going to help you with your tax, legal, financial, and medical stuff. And you need someone that you can trust. And I really appreciate that you've trusted me so far, but I'm not a professional and I don't have the bandwidth anymore. I can't do it."
Because she's not that young either.
Well,
And
it's not about our
youth.
youth, really. It's about our capacity. Capacity is an interesting gray area in our lives, right? A lot of trust documents don't go into play. They don't actually become effective until one of three things happens. Death is just the most famous, right? The other two are incapacity and resignation. Well, you can resign as trustee of your trust and then someone else will take over. But there are other documents and we can get into those details. And if you want to learn more about that, visit planforthis.com. But honestly, there's a moment where you have to look at your kind of everyday. Like if you're physically hurting, and I have a lot of empathy for that, uh, I'm finally feeling better enough to play pickleball again.
I forgot to ask you.
Yeah,
Sorry, my apologies.
I'm so excited about that. But my point is that there are things that become real obstacles to us. We have an injury, or we have an illness, or we have something that slows us down. But we still have life's obligations. Bills have to be paid every month. Some people figure that they've got it all set because they're on auto pay. And the trouble with auto pay is that there's no one looking at it. Now, maybe you have things on auto pay. Good. Your vigilance is why it works. But that fiduciary component, that idea that someone else is in place who's going to put your needs first, is a tough idea. Like we go back to Joe and his parents, right? There's an assumption between children and their parents, they'll just take care of it. And what if that's just feeding the cat? No problem. What if that is figuring out why there's a deficit in the checking account every month? That's a different problem to solve. And so really digging into our life, what makes our life go is kind of a big thing to sit with and feel the feelings and process. How is that going to go on if I can't do it?
And that's something you should have a discussion with the family and legal counsel.
I would start with the attorney. I would start there only because I might not even know how to organize these thoughts or my things. I have to start someplace. And the amazing power in the estate planning process is you're kind of forced to organize your stuff.
It's empowering.
It is empowering, as much work as it is, because you might have a deadline you've set for yourself. I recommend to everyone who's watching the show right now, make it December 31st. Okay, if it's December 30th, give yourself a little more time. Maybe it's the next December 31st. But you get the idea, right? Put a date on the calendar that says by this date, I'm going to have my tax, legal, financial, and medical stuff organized, and I'm going to grant power to another person to be my person, and I'm going to have legal documents that if I can't say another word, I can't speak, I can't do, I can't function, I'm going to be looked after. And by the way, this has nothing to do with how much money you have. It really doesn't. Independent Trustee Alliance is a proud nonprofit sponsor of Plan for This. If you are considering serving as a trustee, please visit trusteealliance.com to learn more about this complex and sometimes overwhelming job. trusteealliance.com. Plan for This thanks the Estate Sale Warehouse for all their amazing service and support. Entire home cleanouts, inventory, appraisal, auctions, sale of fine art and classic cars. Learn more at statesalewarehouse.com.
I just come back to Joe and his parents and think about it. Joe is traveling, touring the country, I'm sure.
Right.
And if he were named to be the power of attorney for healthcare, or director for healthcare, and he's in New York City doing a gig and his parents happen to live in California, I don't know where they all live. Think about the logistics of that. And like a lot of people don't consider that when they're naming the people that they want to care for them.
Well, remember the fantasy that we all have, right? That our children will come, that they'll drop everything and come be with us. Is that 3 days? Is that 3 weeks? Is it 3 months? And understand that once we've lost capacity, we could live for another dozen or 20 years or more. So we do have to organize it a bit. We do have to share our expectations and our hopes. And it's possible our kid might say, I'm on the road all the time. I could answer a phone call, but it'd have to wait until I'm done. And I don't wake up until noon because I have a nightlife kind of job. So maybe there's someone else who could be the first person. Maybe it's the neighbor. Maybe it's your dear friends. Maybe, it's your card playing friends. It's somebody who's close to you that you see every week, who really knows you, who looks at you and sees how you're doing. It's not that I don't care. It's that I'm not really the right person. And that's a hard thing to say to a parent. It's a hard thing to say. But once you say it, what ends up happening is your check-in phone calls change. Right?
That's very true.
It doesn't have the tension. It doesn't have the weight. And wouldn't it be a relief for both parents and children to know there's a person? And so if child is going, gosh, the last couple of times I talked to mom, it sounds like she doesn't know what's going on. I'm going to talk to their person and say, would you look in on mom? I'm not sure how she's doing.
So it goes from the guilt trip to the empowerment trip.
Yes. Yes. I think everyone in the picture gets empowered. One, because we're being honest. And two, because we're not just expecting. Just expecting, I mean, can you imagine? You've been to those family parties, right? Thanksgiving can be so fraught with tension and other stuff going on. Why?
The unsaid.
It's the unsaid. It's the unsaid. I mean, that's a topic in itself.
And yes, and even to go beyond that, let's leave Joe out of the picture for a second and just talk about his parents. So many spouses think that they can take on the role of caregiver.
Or they just do it. It creeps up on them.
Unbeknownst.
Hey, Ma, do you need another dozen eggs? I'm going to the store. Great. Thank you, dear. I'd love to have a dozen eggs, right? And then that continues, right? And now suddenly you're buying groceries every week for that person, and you've got their list. You got your list and you got their list. Oh, would you stop by at the pharmacy and pick up my... Of course I will. How could I say no to that? And then pretty soon, and by the way, this happens to a lot of women. Guys, it happens to a little bit, but it happens to a lot of women that, an ex-mother-in-law of mine used to say, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. Because a busy person is going to just keep moving. And I know I can relate to this, right? That at one point in my life, I had teenage boys. I had an ailing father. I had a possible new romance. And I was taking care of my dad's laundry and his garden and his trees and his stuff and his things, right? I'm taking care of my kids' inventory. My own home had already burned down. So I'm starting life over again. I mean, not a busier person, right? And yet I would go get my dad's fresh underwear and stuff out of his dryer and fold it up and bring it to his, care place and take all the dirty stuff. And I mean, it's just, you just do it.
You do it, and you're obviously one person who would do it lovingly and
The best I can, sure.
But I come back to the cases that you and I hear so often where, well, now that son who may be divorced without a job takes on the role, and there's a slippery slope where there's money being taken.
Yep. Sometimes that line is hard and fast and everyone's clear, but here's a couple of things about that. When you ask someone to move in with you so they will take care of you and they save the money, you got to have some clear lines. The IRS considers free rent a gift. And your room with its own entrance and its own kitchen or its own whatever that your child is living in has value. So are you making a gift every month for this person to live in your house? That's one. 2, there's another aspect of that relationship. Are they working to earn their way to live in your house? How many hours? The IRS is interested in that too. And so are you now an employer? And now your insurance company might be interested in that. And what happens if your child falls in your house? Do they report it? How does that get taken care of? Is your child still on your medical insurance? Likely no, but you might be paying for your child's medical insurance in exchange for. So those exchanges and stuff really should be accounted for. And in a lot of families, they're not because it's so awkward to talk about.
I hope we're helping Joe. I hope he's listening. Joe, are you listening? And I'm talking to your parents so that you can have an open and honest discussion with them about what is going to happen. Are you planning for this?
Yeah, because life will ask. Our line essentially is, will you be ready when life asks, did you plan for this? And when I say when life asks, what I mean is these situations that occur in your life as if you didn't plan them, right? They just show up for you. And you're being asked, how are you going to deal with it?
So any last words for Joe, or what do you think?
Joe DeVito, please keep doing comedy. You're hilarious. and I really hope you find the woman of your dreams, even though you've already turned 50.
50?
Yeah, you have to see the whole thing. It's awesome.
Well, good for him.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark. I hope we got a lot of insightful information, and please like and subscribe to Plan for This. We have a lot of information on the website and a lot more to come.
Yes, we do. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Money management and legacy. Will you be ready for life?